What's going on, guys? We are live on Sensible Prepper. Got some pretty cool stuff to talk about. Well, I wouldn't say cool, but we've got some needed things to talk about today. Great to have Robbie Wheaton from Wheaton Arms, also Go Med Gear, doing a lot of medical stuff, medical supplies. But Wheaton Arms, Robbie's been a gunsmith for over 20 years and does a lot of custom work, has really incredible line of Glock aftermarket parts, and their flat face triggers the best on the market.
And in stock.
Period. Oh, it is in stock.
In stock.
Which is unusual. Which is unusual because they sell so quickly. But just an excellent line. I love those flat face triggers. Those things are just phenomenal, especially the locks. But we really appreciate Robbie for being with us. Also, Sarah Mack watching comments. We will be taking some questions during the whole live event, but we'll just kind of pick it out and we'll have a certain point. You can ask your questions. She'll go ahead and get those down. And then when it comes up, we're going to try to keep it pertinent to what we're talking about if possible. So, guys, let me just say this. And I think the reason why I really put this video kind of thought process together is a lot of times, you know, we look at the threats, we look at them, we hear about them, we see them, and we just kind of, because they just continue, we don't really do a lot about it. And I think that right now is a really critical time to get yourself in order, get your house in order. This morning I was watching a video where they were talking about it's not official, but there's a lot of talk between the officers in the military to get your house in order. And one of the things they're talking about is actually getting food, water, and your basic necessities together for your families. So I think it's really important to go ahead, guys, and take that cue, and let's make sure that we are in good shape. You know, a lot of times we procrastinate, we put things off. You know, there's certain things we need to get to and life just gets in the way. We know we want to. I think now is a better time, more urgent to go ahead and get those things put together. So like we said, don't wait, get ready now. If nothing ever happens, again, you're just putting together your basic needs and you'll end up using them. But there are some serious, real threats that we can watch from the daily news that we need to start thinking about. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the problems. We're going to kind of go through those as quick as we can, but then we're going to talk about solutions, and solutions are definitely what we want to focus on. This is a survival channel, and my wife told me one time, she goes, man, you just live in this negative world of threats to the gun community and crime, and then you look at the prepping side and doom and gloom. But to me, it's very positive because you stick your head in the sand doesn't mean you're not going to get mugged. Doesn't mean you're going to get robbed. You stick your head in the sand doesn't mean you're going to go hungry. If you're not going to go hungry if things start to collapse. So I just think it's very important for us to look at some of the problems to get us incentivized, to get us motivated to do some things. But the big thing here is solutions.
Well, and it's easy to stay positive when you're thinking about solutions.
Right.
It's very easy to get in a negative mindset if it's just problem after problem after problem. But when you start looking at solutions and you're like, well, this is a pretty easy solution for this problem, or these are easy solutions for this problem, it's very easy to stay in a very positive mindset if you start developing solutions for those problems and focus on those instead of the problem itself.
I read something today from Patrick Bet-David. If you haven't ever watched any of Valuetainment, phenomenal source. But one of the great things that he said today was anxiety is worrying about the future. Depression is dwelling on the past. We need to take action now. And if you take action now, you're going to be better off, whether it's financial, whether it's with your family and your preps, whether it's doing the things you should be doing. So first thing I want to talk about, but before we get started, I've got a couple of things that I just want to throw in here. I just finished reading Fahrenheit 451. This was written back in 1950 by Ray Bradbury. It's a book about censorship, burning books. This is prophetic. I mean, it's like you're reading today's headlines. Well, not quite. It is a science fiction sort of, but about the future really. But this book is phenomenal. And one of the things I want to mention about this book, because at the end of the book, there's a little interview with Ray Bradbury. And the book itself is written about these firemen, and they don't put out fires. They go and burn books. And the temperature that books burn, or that paper burns, is at 451 degrees. And so one of the things about this was, he said that he started getting these letters. And of course, this was years ago. It was actually during the 70s and 80s when he got the letters, far after the book was written. And one lady got in touch with him and said, well, the women you have in your book, now that it's the 70s or 80s, you need to maybe modernize their role in this book, And then he had another guy to get in touch with him, and he said, and not just this book, but some of his other books. And he said, the black people that you have in your book, they're more like Uncle Tom's, and, they need to really be modernized, and blah, blah, blah. And then he had another guy send him a message and said, hey, the black people you have in there are too, they don't really depict what black people are about. And he was doing it in a derogatory way. And then he had publishers get in touch with him and said, well, there's parts of this book I think you need to take out. Then there was this university that came out and said, we need to take some of this out because it doesn't go along with the way things are today, and blah, blah, blah. And he said, you know what? He goes, I'm writing this book. It's my book. I'm writing it the way I want to write it. And he said, umpires, go sit on the bench. Referees, go get you some water, whatever. He goes, I'm hitting, I'm pitching, I'm running the bases, I'm doing it all. If you want something else, write your own freaking book. And, the one thing about it is, if we're not careful, and when I say minorities, I'm not talking about racial or sexual or whatever. I'm talking about minorities in general. It could be the Baptist Church, which I'm a member of. But these different groups, if you're not careful, can take away your confidence in who you are. And if you start bowing to these little minorities and all these different people, it's going to take away from what you believe. Now, you need to listen to other people. Mm-hmm. That's why Robbie and I are good friends. We don't agree on everything, and we bounce things back, but it's done in a respectful way. That's right. And if Robbie doesn't believe something, that doesn't mean I'm going to end our friendship and I'm going to get mad and freak out, unless it's something absolutely crazy. But, guys, don't let these voices take away who you are and what is the truth. Respect all people. Do the right thing. Don't attack people. You shouldn't there's laws for that anyway. So this is a great book. I think I really highly recommend it. Another book this one is a really old one. It's Alas, Babylon, again, 1950s. This is one of the best survival books that I've ever read. Wow. It is phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. And I saw it on a list of some of the top 10 best survival books. Buddy, this was on the top, and it deserves to be there. This is a great book. It's by Pat Frank. During the atomic age, it was that kind of deal, but this is a great book. So check that out. And then last but not least, any of James Wesley Rawls. I had to look. This is one of the first. I read one of his books. That was my first survival book. It was Patriots, Surviving the Coming Economic Collapse. James Wesley Rawls is phenomenal, and this is the third in the series. This is the Liberators, and actually I'm reading the Founders right now, but this is next. Great books, and guys, you need to read. You need to be getting your mindset. Your mindset is your number one tool. That is your number one solution. So those are just some books. I thought I'd throw those in as tips. Oh yeah, Sarah Mack's getting me back on track. We do appreciate Sportsman's Guide for sponsoring today's episode. You get $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, just SOOTCH. It's a great way. That's 20% right off the top. Plus, and then of course, anything over $100 is going to put that out. But that is a great way. We use it all the time.
Absolutely. And you have to sign up for their Buyers Club as well. Their Buyers Club, you get free shipping on almost all of your purchases, as well as discounts on your purchases. So check out the Buyers Club, sign up for that, and spend $100 and save another 20% with the Sootch coupon code. It's a great way to save some good money on great products. Yeah, and still hands down one of the best magazines out there.
Best catalogs.
Love their magazine.
Yeah, it's great. It's shooting, hiking, hunting, sports, any kind of thing like that. Plus, they have a ton of surplus. Thank you, Robbie.
You're welcome.
See, that's where we kind of going to get surplus stuff. And guys, for the prepper, you get really good quality that's been tested. It's great stuff. So,
I just got to say, it's good to be back this week.
Yes, we have been gone. We've both been on vacation, and we spent some time on the coast, I think in different places, but had a great time, and had my family, had 20 people in our house.
Wow.
Down at the beach. It was wacky. What was really cool was the people right across from us, they live in this area. Mm-hmm. And they said, man, I bought a Glock 30 just on your review. I was like, oh, and then another guy from New York just moved down and he was next to us. And he was like, man, I love your videos and blah, blah. You know, so, I mean, it was really neat. And guys, if you ever see me out, don't hesitate to come by and say, hey,
Absolutely.
I'm not like Tom Cruise. Bugging me, man. Leave me alone. Anyway, great. It's very, very honoring. Very honoring. Okay, so let's get into the action today. The big stuff. Of course, guys, a lot of this you already know. One thing, though, that I'm going to say up front, and this is a solution to this first problem, because I think this is priority, is food. We are going to face some food shortages. Now, what that means is we're going to face some food price increases, mainly. Because, and part of it is, and we're going to look at that in a minute, inflation. Inflation's coming. It's already started. Prices at the grocery are going up. I mean, they've been going up, but they are starting to really spike.
Yep.
With food prices, one of the big things that we're seeing, of course, is the COVID lockdowns.
That's right.
Not a lot of workers out of work, not going back. They're getting money to stay out of work.
Well, and that's the big thing with food shortages. With food shortages, you see labor shortages as well, and one kind of feeds the other. If you don't have the employees to be able to harvest the foods, to get the foods ready to go to market, you don't have the truck drivers to be able to transport the goods and get the goods to market. A lot of times, fruits, vegetables, and meats can spoil before it ever even gets on the shelves,
right?
And it's rotted before it ever reaches the store.
Well, you know,
all of that which drives the prices up.
Well, during the COVID, the big COVID lockdown originally, these big chicken farms were dumping chicken.
That's right.
Out because they didn't have boxes to put them in. So it's a chain reaction if you're not careful. It's not just that, oh, there's not workers in the field. They're not workers in a lot of different of the chain of distribution. I think 90,000 truck drivers right now, they're short in the U.S. 90,000. That's a lot. America lives on trucks, lives on transportation. And so food, guys, food, come on. I mean, we've got to make sure we have our food set aside. And I'll tell you, one of the easiest ways, beside dried beans and rice, is just getting canned food. Just get your canned food. Now, if you want to go and get like Patriot Supply and Mountain House and those are great. But honestly, going to the grocery, grabbing some canned food, you can just heat it up. You're ready to go.
Yep. And make sure you get the low sodium stuff. A lot of the canned goods that are out there have a real high sodium content. So make sure you're looking at the label and make sure it's a low sodium content item that you're purchasing.
So now let's go on into labor shortages. How many of you have been to a restaurant lately? I'm not just a restaurant. There are huge labor shortages. In fact, last night we went out to dinner with the family. We're sitting there at this restaurant we go to fairly often. The girl, as soon as she walks up, she goes, I'm just going to tell you, I'm very sorry. We were very busy, which they were very busy. But she goes, we're kind of short. And so I just want to let you know ahead of time, I'm going to work my best. She did a great job. But I mean, we did run out of tea quite a few times, but she was running by, I mean, all the time. And then she even said the cook in the back, there's only one, which there are usually three. So, there's a lot of these labor shortages just from what you can see straight up.
We saw the same thing last week. We were out doing some stuff and stopped by a fast food restaurant to grab a bite to eat. And the dining area was closed. They had no employees to run the dining area. So the dining area was closed.
Wow. And
we wanted to sit down and eat. So we're like, all right, we're going to go somewhere else. We went to a different restaurant about 10 miles away. Same exact thing. Entire dining area closed down. You could go through the drive-through and get food, but the dining area was shut down. So we ended up going to a third restaurant, and they actually had a dining area that was open. But 2 restaurants in a row within about 7 to 10 miles from each other, and both of them, their dining areas were closed down because they didn't have the personnel to be able to staff it.
I saw a McDonald's last night, went by it. There was a big sign, said $200 sign in if you start working.
Yep.
$200, so there's definitely some issues here. Just don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. I mean, that's the reason why I'm getting kind of like, please, I'm not going to, well, I do. I want to just really implore you to really consider what we're talking about.
Yeah, the signs are everywhere,
Yeah. Help wanted now.
Anywhere you look, commercials on TV, help wanted, help wanted, help wanted. They can't find people to work to do these jobs that are, like you were saying earlier with some of the food shortages, these supply chain jobs, from making boxes, building boxes, the basic things that we need to be able to get goods transported to different areas and into stores. you can't get the packaging to be able to transport these items.
Right.
And
it's services in general.
That's right. And services in general. It's a huge trickle down effect.
Okay, so because of the labor short, now I want to kind of pop back to food because we do have this big drought that's going on out west. That is also part of what's going to affect us. And we have this locust or grasshopper infestation that's just food. Get your food, guys. Get your food. Okay, fuel shortages, or prices. We've seen fuel going up. It just keeps going up. Of course, who could not expect it considering we're shutting down pipelines everywhere? I saw this morning on Fox News, which the reason why I'm mentioning Fox News is because it's a major news source. They said that American Airlines has just told all their company they need to preserve fuel. They need to preserve fuel. They need to take care of it because they're having fuel shortages. This is the airlines. The thing about airlines, which I always kind of think, oh, airlines, I think about people going back and forth. Goods and services travel. In fact, one of the things that's funny is when all this COVID, the first lockdown, when all this COVID stuff happened, the reason why the airlines were able to continue flying is because they were carrying products and they were transporting products back and forth along with like 5 or 6 people on the plane.
Wow.
So, that's part of what's given them some advantage. But if their fuel is going to start running out, we could see some issues there with just getting your basic supplies. So fuel shortages, and of course, which this is on down the list, but since the cyber attack affected the East Coast pretty heavily, and really caused us a lot of fuel shortages. Cyber attacks are definitely something that we should be seeing again. Now, let's talk about
seeing it with some gas stations. I stopped by a couple of gas stations earlier this week that had no pumps. They had no gas at any of their pumps.
Wow.
They were still waiting on the tanker trucks to bring gas in, and they said that it would be a few more days before they got gas.
Wow.
So we're still seeing it here in the East Coast where your smaller stores aren't getting as much gas as they need to be able to keep their pumps full.
Right. Guys, we're really spoiled.
Yes.
We're really spoiled. But let me just say this, is the more that socialism creeps into our economy, into our political future, you're going to see more and more shortages. You're going to see more and more. So it's just a cause and effect. But, with that is inflation. And,
Absolutely.
Again, we're seeing steel prices go way up, lumber prices go up, housing prices go to the roof.
Through the roof. Yeah.
Literally. You're seeing all this different stuff with inflation. So all inflation does is it means that your dollar is worth less. So before I could take $1 and I can go out and I can buy a can of food. Before long, that can of food's gone up to $1.50. Now I can't, I've lost money. I've lost value. And one thing, guys, that I've done, I'm big about are precious metals. And, a lot of people go, well, you can't eat precious metals. Well, you can barter precious metals, and it does protect your wealth. It does protect your wealth. One thing I heard, I went and bought a Kawasaki T-Rex last year and joined a big hunting club. Robbie that was already a member, so I joined that hunting club. Hadn't hunted in a few years. And just thought, it'd be great to have, plus have it around here when I do stuff at the range. And I've been wanting one for a number of years. So I went up to a local place that has hundreds. And when I went in there, they had 2. They had 2. And he said, we have blown out of these things. Now, this was last year. A buddy of mine told me, he said, the reason why all these, even during this pandemic, is that people cashed in their 401ks. They were cashing them in because I think that there was a government thing to where they didn't pay those penalties on it. That's just what I heard. So people have been spending their hard-earned savings for things, and they're going out and they're buying stuff. And this is money that they've worked hard for years. And now it's gone. So guys, preserving your wealth in precious metals, to me, and I'm not talking about as an investment, or I'm talking about just an investment in your future. Protect your wealth. Scottsdale Mint is the best place that I know. And in fact, I know that I've known those guys for years and they are awesome. So if you're really looking for someone to be able to buy some bullion, silver, gold, check out Scottsdale Mint. They make over 20 coins for different countries all over the world. So it's a very credible source. So just check those guys out. Okay. Now, let's get back to cyber attacks, because one thing about cyber attacks, guys, is we see the big ones on the news.
Yep.
What we don't see is Wheaton Arms having a cyber attack on his website. Yep. And shutting it down.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just us.
A number of times.
I've talked to probably 20 businesses in the last month, that small businesses like us, that, I could name the brands and every one of you guys would recognize the brands. And all of us have experienced some type of cyber attack in the last month, be it DDoS attacks or basically phishing, where there's a bot that just tries to plug in hundreds of credit card numbers or thousands of credit card numbers at once to try and get hits. One of the big ones has been people buying stuff with stolen credit cards and reselling it on other websites, reselling the product on other websites. So, it's a tremendous problem right now with small businesses having issues with credit card fraud. And it's causing a lot of problems, a lot of financial difficulty for a lot of companies.
Right. So it takes away not just the large guys, some of the smaller companies. So those are definite threats. Okay, let's political pressures. Let's look at political pressures. We're definitely being pressured. There's a lot of freedom being taken away. A lot of it in the name of safety. Mm-hmm. The COVID-19 thing. Safety. You need to be safe. We're doing this for the safety of the country. We're doing this for the safety of the world. Just run your numbers, guys. That's all I'm going to say. Just run your numbers. You can go to the Worldometer, which is used by the CDC and WHO and everybody else. And there's just that they are using this to shut us down, to shut our freedoms down. But it doesn't stop there. And we all know about this stuff. Mm-hmm. Also, we've got ATF.
Yep, the David Chipman nomination is still pending. That's something that if you're in a state like West Virginia or some of your other states that your senator could be a swing vote, make sure that you're reaching out to them and opposing the Chipman nomination. That is plugging someone into the highest office in the land that regulates firearms, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives. And they're trying to put someone in there that is very, very anti-gun. He would love to have firearms just gone from our hands, where we don't have the right or the ability to be able to defend ourselves anymore. So make sure if you're in one of these swing states, or even if you're not, that you're reaching out to your senator and opposing the Chipman nomination.
And then we have the braces.
Yep,
that's we've got the braces.
The review period for the pistol braces is ending pretty soon. Make sure if you haven't that you go on the website and leave a review about the receiver braces, and same thing with the pistol braces. I'm sorry, and then also the 80% receivers. There's a review period that's going on for that's ending in the next few days, I believe. So if you haven't, make sure you go in there and leave a comment about the 80% receivers as well, because that is going to be a direct effect on individuals being able to build a firearm at home. You may still be able to build it, but anything that you build, if they pass this, anything that you build at home, you will have to register that firearm, or it's going to be an illegal firearm.
Well, there's just a lot of threats, and it does start to impede on our freedoms. Yeah. So guys, the part of that is get what you need to get. And ammunition prices are coming down.
They have been. And availability. I've seen more ammunition on the shelves. It looks like Remington ammunition, Remington Arms is back up and running some. They've been producing some ammo. I've been seeing some Remington ammunition on the shelves. Some of your other companies like Hornady and several others have actually been getting some primers and components and have been able to produce some ammunition and getting some stuff back out there. So it is available. It's still expensive, but it's less than it was, a few months ago. But you are able to, if you do a little shopping around, you are able to get some ammunition now.
Yeah, and guys, the big thing is that is part of your self-defense. And one thing that I've heard 1,000 times, I took a picture and put it on Instagram of a 50 caliber 10 ammo tin that I found full of loose 5.56. Mm-hmm. And I put a picture on there, and people are, oh man, you're just showing off. You're showing off. I'm like, you don't have that kind of ammo put back? You need to have this ammo put back. So because we've faced this 8 times with ammo shortages. So don't think that going out and buying a bunch of ammo that you're like, oh man, I really wish I'd waited.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you do have a sufficient amount of ammo. That is a very important prep.
Well,
Sufficient amount.
A couple of years ago, times are good, the economy is good, ammunition prices are lower than they have been in the last 15 years, just like gas prices. Was a great time, a great opportunity to stock up on ammunition, buy some, put some back so you had it for a rainy day. And there was a lot of people that didn't. I've got a lot of personal friends that didn't.
Yeah,
and they shoot a lot, but they'd go buy 1,000 rounds, they'd shoot 1,000 rounds, they'd go buy another 1,000 rounds, they'd shoot it, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. There's nothing there. And hey, you got any ammo?
Not that you can have.
I don't.
I did give away quite a bit of ammo
Yep.
here and there, because especially with guys that had just started shooting.
That's
a lot of guys got into guns. In fact, I have a whole group of guys, friends of mine, that got into guns, and they went out and bought guns, and they're like, we don't have any ammunition. So I tried to help out where I could, because I really want them to grow that love for the Second Amendment. Okay,
Oh, absolutely. I've got some family members that have never owned firearms, and went out and bought them a firearm, and have been struggling to find ammunition for them.
Right.
And so with them, I gave them some ammunition as well as some training for how they work, how they're supposed to use them.
Good. That's
and
good.
Got them started off on the right foot.
Right.
So
enough said of that, guys. You know the drill. Okay, now this one though, because ammunition, and why would we want to stock up ammunition? Why do we want watch the news right now, and just the blatant criminal activity that's going on, and it's rising. People are they're just lost their minds.
Yep.
And people are out there, especially in the urban areas where there's not really any recourse. They can kind of get away with what they want because of defunding the police and things like that. Thank God here in South Carolina, we're not facing that kind of pressure.
right.
I mean, we still have a very strong law enforcement and a lot of support for that law enforcement. Unfortunately, law enforcement is losing its support in a lot of these major cities. And because of that, you're in threat.
I watched a thing on the news here, local news last night, about the state of South Carolina. It said that 30% of the officers that graduated from the academy last year have already resigned and left the department. 30%
In South Carolina.
In South Carolina. 30% have already left.
Well, see, I guess, and you're right, because what happens is, even in certain areas, and then too, if there is a shooting, even if it's justified, there's a lot of political pressure. There's a lot of things that go on with that. So guys, when you see law enforcement, give them encouragement.
That's right.
And if you see those that are out of line, call their boss, call the, whichever department they're in.
That's right. Sure.
And make some complaints.
Absolutely.
Make some complaints. Okay. So, but with the rising crime, again, guys, it's just one of those things where you need to get yourself ready. You need to get yourself prepared, because obviously civil unrest follows along with that. And, we've seen quite a bit of that, especially in certain areas on the West Coast. Okay, so those are a lot of the threats. We didn't cover them all, but that just gives us an idea. Now we're going to look at solutions, but before we do, we're going to go to some questions, and we're going to see if we can help you guys out. As Sarah Mac gets everything together.
Just threw it in her lap. Hey, let's do questions now. She's like, oh my God.
Okay, hold on. Jam Dog asked, what is the best EDC survival belt?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, there's a lot of great belts out there. And what I use, I mainly go with my Core Essentials belt, great for EDC, for carrying. I like my bull leather belts.
Yep.
But there are a lot of belts out there that, have the Velcro inside, and then you can strap on your regular belt. The problem for me, as far as EDC goes, is that it's kind of bulky.
It does. And, when I think about EDC, I look at EDC as something that if you looked at me, you'd be like, oh, you're just wearing a belt. I don't want things that stand out. I don't want things that are flashy. I like things that are very subdued and don't draw attention to me. So my EDC, and it's been my same EDC for like the last 25 years, as a Galco leather belt.
Oh yeah.
And it's a 1/4 inch thick. It's 1.5 inches wide. It is a solid leather belt with a solid brass belt buckle. But it doesn't stand out. It doesn't draw attention to itself. It's just a leather belt.
Right.
But it's thick enough that it supports. I can carry a holster on it all day long. It doesn't sag. It doesn't droop. But it does everything that I want an EDC belt to do.
Right. I have a Galco that I used when I was doing my IPSIG
Mhm.
matches and
Yep.
IDPA, or yeah. And
Yep.
so when I would wear it, it's that good retention, that rigid belt.
That's
I
right.
will recommend though, as far as if things ratchet up,
Mhm.
having a good tactical belt like US Grunt Gear.
Yep.
He makes some great belts, Cobra buckles. I mean, you can put mag pouches on it. You know, it has a Velcro liner inside, and then you strap on the Cordura belt on the outside. And those are great. It gives you a lot. It gives you a great platform. And, you know, it doesn't go with the whole plate carrier idea,
Yep.
but it definitely gives you a place where you can put a med kit, your pouches, mag pouches, your holster. And guys, you can pretty much be really set up that way.
And you know, that type of belt setup, I'm a big fan of that type of belt setup and have been for a long time. The thing that I like about it is you can build that entire belt out, everything bolted on it, clamped in place exactly where you want it. And if you need it, you just grab it and throw it on and boom, it's there.
Right.
So there's no having to put mag pouches here, mag pouches there, holster. Well, let's try and tuck this in. Well, that's not going to fit. Let's move everything. It's already set up and ready to go. Right. And it stays clipped, it stays hung up. And if you need it, you just throw it on.
Right.
So, and those, so I'm a big fan of those, but not so much EDC, because most people aren't going to wear that every day, but it's a nice belt to have if you need it.
Right.
Anna Musqueda asks, but what if there is martial law? The army and police can confiscate your supplies, so why prep?
Well, you know, the thing is I don't think that even in martial law, typically they put out curfews, they do things. If your personal possessions, they should not be able just to come in and take whatever. Now, if you make a big deal about it, you're telling everybody what you're doing. Mainly when martial law happens, when they're going to confiscate food, is when they go into storage areas that people that have a lot of food is in companies. And they come in, they say, well, we need these for these people. We need to set up these kitchens or whatever they're doing. But as far as a personal, in fact, this came up last year or so, that preppers are in danger.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to come to your house unless you've got food stacked to the ceiling and you're broadcasting it everywhere, which you shouldn't do anyway.
And, you know, the only time that I really heard about anything like that, even last year, was with this guy in New York that had like 100,000 cases of hand sanitizer.
Oh yeah,
that he was selling it at like $100 a bottle and price gouging people, and the government intervened with that for him price gouging.
And I think actually what they did, they didn't really come in and confiscate it. They said, if you don't go ahead and offer this at a fair price to the public, we're going to come in. And I think he did.
Yep.
And I think there's some other ones like that. But as far as a personal prepper and you have food supplies put back, they're not going to come into your house and take your food. I mean, if that ever happens, we're way beyond it.
Well, and you know, that's the thing. That's no different than the government going door to door to seize your firearms or seize your ammunition and seize your personal property. That's a completely different scenario and a completely different situation, and one that I hope to God that we never have to deal with in this country.
Right. Except in Louisiana during Katrina. And a lot of states have put in laws to stop
to prevent things like that from happening in the future.
James Davis asks, I don't have a place to store gasoline. I've got propane, but how much propane should I store for my heater and propane stove to last a year?
Well, you know, it's according to your situation. If you have property, I mean, if you have a house and you can have a tank brought out, that's a great way to do it. I think Wrangler Star, Cody, he just expanded his tank from like 250 to 500 gallons. Storing gasoline is tricky. And I'm not recommending, I mean, you really need to have, a lot of guys will put them like in old refrigerators and bury them and then keep it in there and seal them down. And there's some things about it. I do keep some extra gas around, but I don't keep a large volume of fuel around.
It'll 9 times out of 10, it'll go bad before you ever have a chance to use it.
Well, and you use stable or different, different fuel additives. And you need to try to get gasoline that's non-ethanol.
That's right.
But as far as propane, what I like to do is, and this is the way I prep, I'll go and I'll pick up a propane container and I'll put it back. Then sometime a little bit later, I'll be at somewhere and I'll go, you know what, I'm gonna grab another one. And before long, you have 4 or 5. And then you conserve those and use them as you can, especially if you're trying to figure out a way to cook.
That's right.
One thing that we did was we bought a fire pit that has a large grate that comes over and off of it. And we can cook on that fire pit. So we can use biomass, we can use whatever fuel's available. So in a long-term survival situation, you're going to run out of fuel sooner or later. I mean, you're just going to run out of it if supplies stop moving. So having a way to be able to burn some wood or do things, of course, if you live in an apartment, that gives you a whole nother set of problems, but or you're living in an urban area. But
well, with propane, one of the big considerations that you have is what are you powering with it? Are you running a generator with it? Are you trying to power your entire house with it? Hot water heaters? Are you just using it to heat? Are you just using it to cook? How much propane would you consume annually with your normal day-to-day uses? And then that would give you an idea where you would need to be if you were looking at an annual amount to be able to store, so you would have it.
Yeah.
Memento Mori asks, I don't see any shortages in other nations, ?
Oh yeah, England right now is having massive shortages. You're not going to hear about it through most of your major media, and that is the big problem. We're not getting the truth. We're getting things to get clicks, and they're not really putting out viable information. And two, part of it, and just like with inflation, one of the things that economists are very careful of is to make sure they don't word things in a certain way to make people go crazy. Mm-hmm. So they want the public to be on edge a little bit, but not too much. Don't panic, which there's some good to that. But one of the things I want to mention here, is that what happens is you can see things ahead, and if you start to prepare for that ahead, once the general public sees the danger, mm-hmm. it's over.
Yep.
Just like with toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
I mean, we had toilet paper stocked up. It was really funny. My wife would go up there when we ran out of toilet paper, and she'd say, well, and I went up there and I was like, honey, you've been taking toilet paper out of our preps. I said, don't take it out of there. Make sure you go buy some more. She did. She went and bought it, put it back up there. We got our stock back up right before all hell broke loose with toilet paper. And we had plenty of toilet paper. If we'd have tried to go out and get it afterwards, we'd have been behind the curve.
But there was like a 2 to 3 week window there where people that actually watch and pay attention, you could see that there were things going on with toilet paper. That hey, there's shortages. It's going to be running out. You really need to be getting some and stocking up on it. And it went from 1 week was that. Next week you see it in a few more places, and by week 3, the mass media got a hold of it, and toilet paper was gone.
Yeah,
in just a day or two. All paper products. I won't just say toilet paper. Paper towels, toilet paper, napkins, everything. The shelves were wiped clean in just a couple of days once the mainstream media and the majority of the public actually caught on to what was going on.
Right, and that's in anything, whether it's firearms, ammunition. Same thing happened there.
Gasoline. When we had the
when we first had that cyber attack, it was mentioned, and I saw it, and I put it out where I could on my social media, and then so I called everybody in the family, said, "Go fill up your tank. Go fill up your tank."
Yep.
I go up there to fill my tank up. In fact, it had come out on Fox News.
Yeah.
By this time, I went up there to fill my tank. It was no different. Everybody, just 2 or 3 cars, people getting a little gas. Mm-hmm. I was like, do people not watch the news?
Yep.
And so I went ahead and I filled up a couple of extra cans. I have some jerry cans. Got a Sportsman's Guide.
That's right.
Some different jerry cans. I went ahead and filled them up. The next day, boom, everything was gone.
Yep.
So, guys, just putting this ahead of time, getting these things, the things that you really use and you really need that you can't do without, just make sure you have extras.
That's right.
Mary Quiet asks, how can I heat an apartment that doesn't allow a generator?
Well, there are some indoor type heater systems. Kerosene heaters is one of them. Mm-hmm. But you've got to have the fuel. If you live in an apartment, honestly, living in an apartment, it's very difficult to prep because you have limited space. You have a lot of people there. In fact, a buddy of mine, my brother-in-law, he just got an apartment and he's on the 3rd floor. And that's one of the things. He can't use any kind of grill, any kind of anything. So he has to be really careful what he can use.
How about solar panels? Are there some smaller solar panels that if you've got like a little patio that you could set them up?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, if you're facing the sun,
right?
It's according to how your setup is.
Yep.
But if the power goes out, and really what I'm talking about here is not necessarily the power going out, but like in California, they're having rolling blackouts. Mm-hmm. They have these rolling blackouts, and so if that's possible.
I saw an announcement talking about that. I saw an announcement over the weekend out of California news, not to charge your electric cars because the grid can't support all of the people charging their electric cars right now that it's causing more blackouts.
And there's only a few of them. Wait till they start pushing it.
Mhm.
Now, let me get back to your question. One thing though you can do is get some of these little stoves that have these like butane kind of canisters. I've got a couple of them actually, and you can buy the extra canisters. And so those are safe to use inside.
Mhm.
That'd be a great resource. They're just small little metal and they fold up.
Yep.
And you can pull it out. You can get those extra canisters and you can use those in an apartment. So I think that would probably be one of the best bets as far as cooking. Maybe a kerosene heater, or go to Lowe's or Home Depot and see what they have to offer, because a lot of times they do have some things that are able to. And with the season coming up,
Mhm.
it's a good time now to start thinking
That's
before we
right.
get into the cold weather. All that stuff will dry up.
John Jackson asked, what about the possible housing market crash?
That is definitely something that we have been considering.
Yep.
A lot of people, are buying at inflated prices, and they're going way, way, way beyond what the asking price is.
Mhm.
But sooner or later, this has got to stop.
Every bubble burst.
Right.
You look back to the 2008 housing market crash, and up until that point, from the late 90s all the way through 2007, the housing market was just booming. Building new houses, construction workers were just wide open. Contractors were wide open. And then because of poor financial lending from lending institutions, the market crashed. And the government had to jump in and bail some of these companies out, instead of, letting, the free market run its course, and these companies actually collapse. But that's another story. But, we're starting to see the same thing now, where these houses are grossly overpriced. People are paying way more than what the houses should actually be valued at, because there's so little inventory available right now. And eventually that industry is going to collapse again. You're going to see it from the lending sector. The lending side is either going to tighten up on what they're willing to lend, and then also foreclosures. These people overpaying for these properties, they're not going to be able to afford the payments, and you're going to start seeing a tremendous
Especially
number
of job loss.
That's right.
Now,
That's right.
Another part of this whole thing is that people are moving out of areas that have really, the standard of living is a lot higher.
Mhm.
So let's say someone's living in New York and they want to get the heck out of New York, and they have a really good job, so they have a lot of money invested, and they sell their house. They come down to South Carolina, which this is happening like crazy.
Yep.
And they're finding that the housing market here is a lot cheaper.
Mhm.
So they're able to dump more money into it. So that's another part of it. So, it's one of those things. Okay.
Which once again is artificially inflating the housing market in these rural areas.
But see, the problem is up there, it's going to start to deflate.
It will.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. One more question, then we're going to go to a couple of more solutions.
Ian McKenzie asked, is citric acid necessary? Also, what other vitamins/minerals is essential?
Well, let me tell you what we do. And this has actually been, a lot of doctors are treating COVID-19 this way. Vitamin C, D3, and zinc. Those are very important. Now, zinc does deplete copper in your body. So there's a certain formula. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not going to give you all the formulas. You can do your research, but those are the main ones, and we use those. So vitamin C, D3, zinc, have a little copper. You don't need to take a lot of it. So do your research again, but those are the main ones. And of course, any multivitamins, having vitamins and being able to, because the problem is that if we start to have food shortages, your diet's going to be affected by those food shortages. So you may have a lot of beans, but you're not getting all the minerals you need.
That's right.
So that is a problem. Okay, let's look at a couple of things. Now, we've been talking about stocking up. That's a big one. Honestly, that's a no-brainer. Stock up. Be careful what you stock up on, though. Have some priorities. Make out a list. Go, okay, number one, food. Okay, also water. Where's your water? We did a video on that. Water is essential. You can go watch it. We talked about all these different ways that you can procure water, that you can store water, and how to find water, what dangers are in there.
Mm-hmm.
So check that out. That's on in here. But water is actually more important than food. Next, we see food, and we see supplies, anything that you need to function on a daily basis. And toilet paper is definitely one of those. Spices, different things like that, because your food you know, especially if you're using dried beans and rice, it's going to get really bland in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so we stock up. Number two, which this is just as important, honestly, or a second importance, is organizing your supplies. Organizing your supplies, knowing what you have, getting it set up. That way you're not, because I'll do this, and I know Robbie does too. We talk about it. We'll go somewhere and we'll buy something and we'll come home and there it is. And we're like, okay, so what could have happened was I could have used this money to buy something that I have holes in. So organizing your supplies, making sure that you have what you need. And this isn't just your food supplies. This is also your ammunition. This is also, you know, a variety of different things that
it's all encompassing. All of your supplies that you have, from, you know, everything that you need.
Medical supply.
Absolutely.
Go med.
You know, and you know, I would like what we do. We've got lists of stuff for different categories, different things that we want to make sure that we always keep on hand. And you know, there's numbers beside all of it on our spreadsheet, and we know that if we start running low on some of this stuff, that's an area that could be a hole that we need to go back and backfill that. Right. So that way we've always got a running inventory of what we have, where it's at, and how much of it we have. So right. we can maintain whatever our quantity is, whatever our number is that we feel comfortable with that particular supply. It's easy for us to look at a spreadsheet and be able to keep up with it on there.
That's good. That's smart. That's really smart. Okay, now, so organizing not only your supplies, organizing your self-defense gear. We talked about tactical belts, EDC tactical belts, but make sure that you have your belt ready. Have your mag pouches set up. Maybe you don't have some mag pouches and you've been planning to do it. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and get your belt ready. You know, making sure you have two-way radios. You know, if we start having some issues and two cyber attacks, they could actually attack the cell service. Cell service.
Absolutely.
So, you know, having two-way radios to at least be able to communicate within line of sight and be able to get around. And then, of course, you can go on into that with ham and other comms. But make sure that you have some way to be able to communicate if you need to. For us, in a security situation, having cell phones to go back and forth to it is very difficult to use. Having small little two-way radios with little earbuds, it allows you to communicate with people in case you have a security setup. And again, with crime and with civil unrest, that could be an issue. And then also make sure that you have your batteries, make sure that you keep them rotated, make sure you have that stuff. Okay, now we got a list over here, so I'm kind of looking. Okay, fill your tanks. Keep your gas tanks full. The other day I'm driving and I'm like, what the heck? Somebody borrowed my car. Car's down to a quarter of a tank. I'm like, no. So I pull in, fill it up. I'm trying to keep it when I get just down to 2/3 even. I'm jumping over there or even a quarter of a tank. I'll jump over, fill up my tank. Make sure that I have extra gas cans and that they're full. Storage can be an issue, so make sure that you have a safe way to be able to keep your storage, your gas stored, you know, outside. You don't want to put it in a garage. So, you know, having some kind of gas supply. Water supply, again, refer to our water video.
Absolutely.
Filter systems. Don't go to a creek and start drinking out of that water. It has cryptosporidium, has giardia. I mean, it has all kind of microorganisms that can make you not only sick, kill you. Of course, you can boil your water. Again, go check it out. I think that's a really vital video to watch.
Yeah, filters are just so much more efficient than boiling water.
Yeah,
you know, you can boil water if you have to, but you know, in a true survival situation where you have no other choice but to boil it. But you know, for day-to-day survival, a good filtration system is just absolutely a necessity as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and boiling water doesn't take away the taste. Yep. You know, and then also it doesn't take away the debris. So you want to make sure that and pre-filter it before you put it in. Again, okay, tools. This is one that's really hit me. My chainsaw. I've had some issues with that chainsaw, and I've been planning to buy another one. My dad has one, so I mean I'm okay. But I was planning to get a steel. And been looking at them, couldn't find them.
Yeah,
nobody has them. They're all dried up. Right now, I know a place that has them, and see, I'm looking at my title, says "Don't wait, get ready now." I need to go and get that. In fact, I'm going to do it after this video. You know, I'm going to go and get the saw that I need. But make sure that you have the tools you need for survival, and also think about gas, or think about maybe I've got a hand drill, but what if our power runs out? I need make sure I have my tools organized.
You know, it's funny you say that, and you know, I'm a total tool nerd. I love tools. I've always loved tools. My big thing in the last 6 months or so has been buying manual tools.
Yeah.
Manual drills, manual saws, the kind of tools that if I don't have power anymore, I don't have a way to charge my batteries, I don't have electricity to be able to plug my saws into, that I can still build anything that I want with manual tools.
Right.
So that's been one thing that I've really been focusing on buying, or a lot of these manual tools, these real, old tools. These stuffs they're 50 years old, they're 100 years old, but they're great quality and they still work and they function great. So that's what I've really been focusing on the last few months is manual tools.
That's great. I have I have some manual tools, but one thing I think I bought on eBay. It was a grinder, and it goes onto just like a vise. You put it onto the bench, you tie it down. You have a handle, and it's got a grinding wheel, and that thing goes, and man, it moves.
Oh yeah,
buddy, you can use that to sharpen tools or do whatever.
That's right.
Manual tools, saws, having regular saws, not just your Sawzall.
That's right.
But have your regular saws, miter boxes, even different things that you can use. I went on a tool binge.
Yep.
And what happened was I went into Home Depot one day and I was looking at some tools and I saw all these tools and they were all made in other countries, China mainly. And actually China's gotten a lot better with their tools. They've gotten a lot better. So I'm not going to, but I just looked at
they're buying a better steel now.
But, I went through and I looked at these tools and I went, wait a minute, you know what? I'm going to go on eBay and check. I went on eBay, found tons of Craftsman, all kind of different, really high quality tools, cheaper than I could have bought these Chinese made tools, and they're better quality. And so I just started buying tools, and I bought sets of screwdrivers, I bought pliers, and I did get some pretty cool antique pliers and different things, to use. Really high quality, and you can get them in lot sets. So, and eBay is a great way. Flea markets, that's another great way to be able to pick some things up. Because
going to one tomorrow.
There you go. Well, let's see. Yeah, there's one tomorrow, the big one, the big one.
Yes, sir.
There is one that's kind of local to us, and there's always good things there. But being able to, the less you spend on necessary items is the more you have to spend on other things that can help you. So they're definitely tools, and solar panels. I got that down there. Solar panels is something that you can charge up, different things you can run. We have a humless solar generator. And we can put our panels up. It'll keep our refrigerator going for about 5 hours. And then we just keep it on the charge. And so it's just one of those things that you can harness energy from the sun. But then make sure that you have your power banks, which you need power banks, and make sure they're fully charged. One thing I'm notorious about is leaving my power banks and just not charging them and using them and using them and using them, and all of a sudden going, well, this is running down. So that's one thing, make sure, again, maintenance on your stuff. Make sure your guns are clean. Make sure you've oiled them, you're keeping them clean. Make sure that you have the maintenance on them, if you're having any issues with them.
Make sure you have spare parts for them.
Yes.
That's a biggie.
Yeah.
Know how to take your firearm apart, know how to perform basic service and basic maintenance to it, and know how to keep it working and running, and have the spare parts to where if you do have a failure with it, that you have the replacement parts to be able to get it back up and running.
Now, I'm gonna tell you, and Robbie and I both agree with this one. We did a video, I don't know, a couple of years ago now, about Glock being the ultimate SHTF firearm.
Yep.
Now, I know a lot of you guys, and I love other guns, so I'm not just a myopic Glock guy, but this is one big thing about Glock, is you can do anything to it. You can change all the parts. You can take the thing all the way down. You can put them back together. There's bazillions of parts out there.
That's right.
There's some great aftermarket parts on wheatonarms.com. But we did a video talking about the survival kit for your Glock. And you can do it. You can fix it. Some other guns, when they go down, it's complicated, and with Glock, it's not. So I'm not a salesman for Glock, even though I've been shooting Glocks for 30 years. But the big thing is they're so easy to fix, and the parts are, of course, they've dried up a lot.
They've dried up a lot. Yeah. So that's one of the things, kind of like with ammunition, 2 years ago, you could get it, you could stock up on it, and you had it. Now, if you find the parts, they're going to be quite a bit more expensive, especially with we were selling the survival kits, which had a lot of your small parts that you needed, things that fail with it, that you can get it back up and running. We haven't been able to get those small parts in months.
Right.
And that was one of the things that I really loved, keeping those kits on the website so guys could buy them and have the spare parts. But we just can't get them.
Right.
We can't get those parts right now.
So you might be able to find them going around and looking and finding maybe you'll pay a little bit higher price, but I
Mhm.
mean, how much is it worth to keep your firearm running?
Yep.
The same thing with the AR-15. You can replace parts. You can do a lot of stuff. A lot of you guys have built things and stuff like that. So with that being said, okay, so we've gone through our problems, gone through our solutions. We've got a lot of great questions. Guys, you really don't need to procrastinate at this point. Take what you can. Now you say, well, man, I just don't have a lot of money right now. Every time you go out and buy something toward your survival puts you that much ahead.
That's right.
So you got to look at it that way.
Even if it's just one can good a week, two
Right.
canned goods a week, that's still putting you further ahead than you were last week.
Right. That's right. And it gives you peace of mind. Again, anxiety is worrying about the future. Depression is worrying about the past. You got to focus on now. What are you going to do now to get yourself in good shape? And again, reading really good books puts you in the right mindset. And, it's one of the things, and I've noticed this even in different types of blah, 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 these different You ever been in a different type of situations, any kind of, emergency situation, is that a lot of people look like they're deer in headlights. Those are the people that just aren't prepared. If you get yourself in a decent shape, then when things start to come, you kind of go, okay, I see that. I'm not dumbstruck. I'm not like, oh, I don't know what to do. What are we going to do? You've already got a plan in place and you start moving on that plan. Doesn't mean that you're even going to survive, but it means that you have the necessary means an attitude to start to push that direction. And so it's very important. Okay, so we're going to start winding down. We really appreciate Sportsman's Guide. $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, Sootch. Great way to go. And
you got to sign up for their buyers club. Their buyers club, you get free shipping on everything that you order. And they also have discounted prices for the members of the buyers club. So you can save even more money with the buyers club. Then the $20 off. It's a great way to save some money and get some great gear. The best magazine out there, their magazines with all their surplus stuff, all of the gear and stuff that they carry. You got to get one of those and just check that out.
And I'm going to throw a point in there. It's like the Whoopie.
Mm-hmm.
The military Whoopie, what the Rangers love to use. Those things are warm, they're comfortable. If you don't have heat in your house, you need to have some maybe sleeping bags or some things that are insulated to keep you warm. So that is one thing. In fact, I bought one for everybody in the family. We buy stuff like that. It's surplus, it's less expensive.
We've got Whoopies laying all over our house. My boys, they're playing the video games. They're covered up in a Whoopie, lounging on the couch, watching a football game or something. College, of course.
Yeah.
got our Whoopie thrown on us. We're sitting there watching the football. But, they're so comfortable. The first time you wrap up in your one, you're like, oh, yeah. love my Whoopies.
Love my Robbies and that thing. Why are they having a military encampment in here?
Well, that's the thing. You can get the old like woodland camouflage ones, but they're available now in all kind of different colors. You can get solid, you can get reds and greens and blues and blacks. All of mine are woodland camouflage because they should be woodland camouflage.
Yeah, definitely. But we really do appreciate Sportsman's Guide. Also, Wheaton Arms, check out Robbie's website, wheatonarms.com, Glock aftermarket parts. He also does custom work, a lot of different things. Been a gunsmith for over 20 years. Also, GoMed gear, which we did not talk about. Medical gear, guys, is important. Not just the trauma kits and all that stuff, but just your regular, your Modiums,
everyday medical stuff. Yep, and that's one of the big things that we really have at GoMed Gear are your basic medical supplies, the stuff that you need every day, the stuff that you use every day.
Right.
And I'll tell you a quick little story before we run out of time and Sarah Mac starts waving at me. But and I just got the eye.
The sneak.
But so this past weekend we went to a race, and we were giving away one of our med kits at the race, and it just so happened that about midway through, one of the track officials got ran over.
Wow.
And injured him pretty bad. Well, where did we go? We went and grabbed the med kit that we were going to give away and ripped the med kit open and used about half of the stuff out of the med kit for him to get him ready to transport to the hospital.
Wow.
But, it was, nobody expected that. Nobody thought that anything like that would happen, but it was there and we had it.
Right.
And we were able to use it. And that's the thing with medical a lot of times is you don't need it until you need it.
All right.
And
then you need it.
and then you really need it. But to have it on hand with all of your basic stuff, from Band-Aids and antibiotic ointments and stuff, to some of your more trauma related items like splints and tourniquets and stuff, it's not crazy expensive. And on our website, you can go through and you can buy anything from a Band-Aid to a case of Band-Aids.
Right.
And that way you can build and get exactly what you want.
Right. So medical is serious. GoMedGear.com. Check it out. All right, guys. Well, we are going to sign out. We really appreciate Sarah Mac for being over. Thank you for your questions. I hope that you've been able to, I hope we've inspired you to go ahead and stop waiting, get out there and start doing.
That's right.
Because the signs are on the wall. It's written in big, huge letters, and we really need to get ourselves prepared, because here's the thing. The better my neighbor's prepared, the better I'm prepared. And so, guys, get prepared. You're going to make the whole country better off. The more people that are prepared out there. So be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.